everybody come in a little closer. I know we've been through the pandemic. You know, I hope we're all vaccinated. I certainly am myself. And here we are together in a group, close together. And we kind of got to, first and foremost, recognize the situation that we're in. Sir, could you put your helmet on? Just because if you don't, I'm just going to keep looking at you. First and foremost, let's just recognize the situation that we're in. We're on a very dangerous whitewater river, so a lot of social norms go out the window. My undergraduate work was in sociology, and I learned about the Seattle freeze. Has any of you heard of the Seattle freeze? What is it? The Seattle freeze. It means that in general, people in Seattle, they don't like to talk very much. And they're known as passive aggressive. Have you heard this rumor? All right. Has anyone else heard this? Come on, talk to me, friends. All right. So here's what I'm getting at. When we're on the river, we want to be aggressive passive. All right. So everybody that's on this trip understands the risks of running a class 3-4 whitewater run. Okay, and you don't have to ask permission to rescue them. All right. So if somebody falls in the river, you can immediately grab them by the PFD. Don't grab them by the heads. That's just rude. But you can follow all of these rescue procedures, and we want you to do it as quickly as possible. Does that make sense? Yeah. Talk to me, yes or no? Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, so my name is Luke, and I'm here to do your safety talk. You can see I don't have my helmet on. I'm not going to be on the river with you. I'm just going to handle the safety talk part of things, just to give the guides a bit of a rest. Now, where did Josh go? He's down there. So your guides today, all of them are SRT1, Swiftwater Rescue Technicians. They all have advanced medical training, and they've all been down this river many, many times. We have the best guide staff in the industry, in my opinion. They are certainly the most well-paid and highly trained that we have. Your equipment on the river, we've got NRS E136s, some of the best whitewater rafts available in the market. We'll be taking those down the river today. The first things we're going to cover, friends, is the river itself. How many of you have run the sock before? You've run it before. You survived. That's good. We're batting 1,000. Has anyone else been whitewater rafting before? All right, where at?
Oregon, West Virginia.
West Virginia, the Gauley perhaps? I spent a season out there. Montana, maybe on the Flathead, Yellowstone? Oh, cool. Yeah, Max, one of our guides, he got it out there. Chelan, cool. The Yakagani raft.
No, that's the real one. There's
Oh, that's the real.
You know, Wisp is right next to there, and they have
You
a.
ran a fake river.
Well, yeah, but it's still.
It's so cool. No, I'm not saying it's not cool.
They do Olympic trials there.
Oh, nice. And you, Colorado? What river? Oh, nice. Excellent. So we do have some experienced whitewater runners out here today. Most of the things that we teach you in our rescue system are going to be the same things that you ran in other places. So there's certain things in our industry that are global industry standards, but some things that we do are specific to this area. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so let's start with the river itself. The Sauk River, rated class 3+ by American Whitewater at normal flows. This would fall under that category. Some people call it a class 4, so we call it like a class 3 to 4 based on river levels. Right now, the river's running about 2,500 cubic feet per second, so it's probably medium low, maybe a little bit lower than average, but still very much a legitimate whitewater run. I'd like to direct your attention to this map right here to give you an idea where we are topographically. You guys can snuggle in here. These people are nice. So here we are at the confluence of the White Chuck River. So when you're in the bus, you drove over a bridge right before you got here. You saw some white water coming through. That's water that's draining the glaciers of Glacier Peak, a 10,000-foot volcano about 20 miles away from us. The White Chuck River comes in right through here, and it meets the confluence of the Upper Sauk River that drains these other 7,000 to 8,000 foot peaks. So we're in what we call the North Cascades. Definitely a lot of glaciated peaks. So what does that tell you about the water temperature? Oh. It's gonna be cold. We'll get back to that in a second. If you look over here, we got a road map to kind of show you where we are. So this is more relevant if we do have an emergency. I want you to know that we got plans for that. We are here at the confluence of the White Chuck River and the Sauk River. We're going to be running a 7-mile section of river from here down to Bachman County Park. Okay, so it's a 7-mile section of river. The first 3 miles are almost continuous class 3 whitewater. So it's not the kind of river where it starts out slow and builds up. It actually starts out with a lot of rapids. So we want to be kind of ready to go from the beginning. The nearest emergency medical services are here in Darrington along the river corridor. We do have 3 emergency evacuation points. Okay, so those are all planned out in our safety protocol. Also, I'd like to just take a minute to acknowledge the Swiftwater Safety Institute. That's who trains our guides, and they also consult with all of our rescue systems. Any questions about where you are, where you're going? No, you're feeling good. All right, everybody's worried. It's okay. It's cool. All right. So now we're going to talk about dangers. All right. There are 4 main dangers on the Sauk River. The first one, as we mentioned, is cold water, hypothermia. So it's super warm out here. You're wearing a wetsuit. It's like, what's the point of this? Well, it's because we've got 45-degree water out here. All right. So hypothermia is one of the most pervasive risks in whitewater rafting. There was a study done about 15 years ago that summarized their findings with saying that essentially every single whitewater fatality had something to do with cold water. Nobody functions as well in cold water as they do at normal temperatures. So we want to be super mindful of that. We've got our 3mm neoprene wetsuits on for hypothermia protection. We also want to encourage you to just be really fast about your rescues. So just harkening back to my first statement about throwing out social norms and being polite to people, the most polite thing you can do is be a participant in your own rescue or somebody that's on your team. When I say team, I mean all of us. Okay, so on that note, I'll tell you a little story. So I started rafting back in the 90s, and my daughter, I took my daughter rafting, and one time she fell out of the raft, and there was a gentleman that went to rescue her, and he tried to pull her into the raft by grabbing the side of her lapel of her PFD and pulling her in over the side, because he didn't want to be a weirdo about it and pull her in on top of it. You get what I'm saying here? The most important thing is that we get everybody out of the water as quickly as possible. Okay, and that's just related to hypothermia. We only got a couple, 3 minutes before people really start to poop out in this water. So we want our rescues to be quick. One other thing about hypothermia is what we call cold shock. When you first hit the water, the temperature difference is like 40 degrees, so it's really shocking to your system. Has anyone experienced this? All right, so what happens is that people's lungs will freeze, and sometimes they'll inhale water. I want to encourage you to yell out, "Ah! Oh my God!" Or you can sing like Prince, Purple Rain, or whatever you want to do, but just make sure that you get your lungs moving when you hit the water. All right, so that's called cold shock. So that's the first danger I want to warn you about out of 4, and that's hypothermia. Any questions about that? All right, the second danger is even more fun, and that's wood. So we're here in the Evergreen State. We've got all these beautiful trees, the cedars that grow next to the river, but this is essentially a volcanic lahar. A big landslide came through here when Glacier Peak erupted, and it has a very unstable riverbed. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, it's very unstable, and as a result, these big trees that grow on the banks fall in the river. Okay, most of the time, we're aware of those trees before we come down. We do scouting runs on this river over and over, but sometimes we'll run a morning trip and it'll be clear, and we'll come back and we'll run this trip and there'll be a tree that falls in the river, and there's no way we would know. Does that make sense? Okay. If you happen to come up on a tree, so just imagine one of these trees in the river on its side, okay? I don't care what, if it's a Doug fir, I don't care if it's a big limb. If it's made out of wood, you don't want it, okay? If it's on the river and it's made out of wood, stay away from it. Swim aggressively away. So Michael Phelps it, turn over on your belly and swim as fast as you can away from the wood. If you cannot avoid running into the wood and you're in the river, I want you to swim directly at it head first and then climb up and over the log. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so you literally, if you see wood, remember to go up and over. Do not go underneath it. Even if you climb up halfway and you get stuck there, that's better than trying to go underneath, because when a tree falls, the limbs are underneath that catches debris and it creates a spaghetti strainer where the water can go through, but you can't. So stay away from wood, and if you run into wood, go up and over. So that's the second danger I want to warn you about, and that's wood. Any questions? Those are the 2 big ones. The next one is foot entrapment. So if you look out here, again, there's this rocks. It's kind of a shallow river in certain spots. let's say that you're in a flip or a rescue swim or whatever, and it's fairly shallow. People have a tendency to look down and want to stand up. But you don't want to do that, because if you try to stand up in moving water, sometimes your foot will get entrapped between rocks or perhaps a limb, or sometimes if it's near like a farm or a road, it could be like a piece of rebar or a fence or something like that. We want you to keep your feet up until you get to the bank. So don't walk, don't stand up in moving water. Any questions about that? Okay, this is called foot entrapment. I want to encourage you to not stand up in moving water, swim all the way to the raft or to the bank. And it is something that as SRT1s, we have trained in extracting people from foot entrapment, but the reality is that it's got a very low success rate. We want to do this with a preventative rescue, meaning just don't stand up in moving water. The fourth thing I want to warn you about is called flush, and that just means that you get separated from your raft. Okay, so that's fairly simple. Raft capsizes or there's a rescue and you're just in the river having your own private rafting trip. There's no extra charge for this. However, you want to remember that you want to stay between the front raft and the furthest upriver raft. Does that make sense? That's our containment zone. Talk to me, Goose. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
We want you to stay in containment, all right? So swim aggressively back to a raft. That's the best move. Or if you feel like getting to the bank is easiest for you, you can swim to the bank. Sometimes getting to the bank can be sketchy because, like we talked about, there's foot entrapment risks and wood, but ultimately you're the one that decides, am I going to go back for that raft or am I going to swim to the bank? All right, so flush is the fourth thing to warn you about. It's a bigger concern in higher water conditions, but it is still a possibility at these flows. Those are the four dangers I want to warn you about. That's hypothermia, wood, foot entrapment, and flush. Any questions about those four things at all? All right, sounds good. All right, so we're going to go down and do our paddle talk here in just a second, but I'm going to give you a brief overview of it before we go down there. So those of you that have been rafting before, you've probably heard something like this. If I say something that contradicts other rafting companies that you've been with, I'm not going to take offense. It's not going to bruise my ego, I don't think. If you call into question our rescue system, we're more than happy to clarify or answer any questions. We're all on the same team, so just ask if something doesn't make sense. So the rescue system that we use is called reach, row, throw, go. Reach, row, throw, go. Say it with me. Reach, row, throw, go. Reach, row, throw, go works. It starts with the simplest method of rescue and then moves to the more complex. It's been used by the Boy Scouts for decades, and that's how somehow the Boy Scouts have managed to run Class 3 whitewater with 12-year-old kids for the last 50 years. They use a good rescue system. It's used by search and rescue teams, the Army, and us. Reach, row, throw, go starts with the simplest method of rescue, and that's reach. So if somebody falls out, what's your name?
Judy.
Hi, Judy. This is Judy. Say hi to Judy.
Hi.
So let's say that Judy falls out. The first thing that we're going to do is reach for her to grab her PFD. Or maybe you've got a paddle, you can reach that out. Okay? Reach. The next thing that we're going to do, the slightly more complex rescue, is row. When I say row, I mean paddle, work as a team to use the raft as a rescue device to paddle it after that swimmer. Listen to your guide. The guide's going to be giving you paddle commands just as if you were in a rapid, all forward, all back, to position that raft so that you can go and get that swimmer that's fallen out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Reach, row, throw, go. If we can't reach and we can't row, we're going to throw, which means we're going to use a throw bag. One sec. We're going to use a throw bag to throw it to you and pull you back to the raft. Okay? Reach, row, throw, go. A go rescue is really fun. Not, actually. A go rescue is when we utilize a person. Okay, it's a dynamic rescue where we often incorporate these harnesses on our PFDs. We've all been trained to utilize them. In those kind of situations, it's typically much more serious. Obviously, that's why it's the last line of defense. And usually that means the trip's going to be pulled over to the side of the river. There's going to be an incident commander, and you're going to have some communication from the guides about what to do. If you don't want to be a part of the rescue and it's serious like that, simply stand back, stay calm, do jumping jacks if it's cold. If you do want to be a part of the rescue, maybe you've got some experience yourself, if you're a volunteer firefighter or something like that, just step forward. You don't need to say anything to us. You coming close to us tells us that you want to help out. Does that make sense? Reach, row, throw, go. It's awesome. It works. Any questions about those things? We're going to just practice them a little bit before we get on the river, but just an overview. Reach, row, throw, go. One last thing, communication. So Josh is over here, and he's from Vermont, and I'm from Idaho, but when we're on the river, we speak the same language. All right? So the first thing is we both have these whistles. He's got two. If we want to get each other's attention, we blow it one time. If there's an emergency, we blow it 3 times. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, if we want to know if somebody's okay, I look at Josh, I point at him, and you don't need to wonder if I'm pointing at you. If you're in the river, yes, it's you. You don't need to like look around. Yeah, it's you. All right, so if I point to Josh and say, are you okay? I pat my head, and he pats his head. That means he's okay. All right, so if everybody's in the river, I'm going to ask everybody, hey, you, are you okay? He's okay. If you're on the bank, all right, you swim to the bank, you're over on the bank looking at birds and plants and having an amazing nature experience or something, and the rescue gets cleaned up and your lead guide points at you, blows the whistle 1 time, and asks if you're okay. What do you think happens if you don't tell us you're okay? That's a 911 call and a very serious thing. We don't want to mess with that. So remember, I'm okay, you're okay. Go ahead and give it a try. Okay, you can even try this if you want. It's advanced level. Okay, so that's communication. Any questions about that before we get moving?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about this, how many people fall in a day?
Oh, many. But not you. I don't know what the percentage is. We don't keep track of how many people fall out. We do keep track of flips, so it's about 2% flip rate. So 1 out of, what is that, 1 out of 5? I can't do math. I've hit my head so damn many times. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, awesome. Okay, friends, come with me down to this raft, and we're gonna just do a couple drills. I'm gonna need a couple volunteers for this. All right, cool, yeah, gather around, gather around. I need 2 volunteers. Two volunteers. All right, this guy right here, and you, ma'am? Absolutely. And your name? Liz. This is Liz. Everybody say hi to Liz.
Hi, Liz.
Okay, come on, right. Go ahead and sit in the raft there, Liz. And your name, sir?
Jared.
This is Jared. Everybody say hi to Jared.
Hi, Jared.
All right, Jared, let's have you sit right here. Okay, guys, come on closer here. Come on around. Now, we're just going to go back through those rescue procedures and talk about what we're going to do when we get in the river. Now, each one of your guides is going to go through paddle commands when you get on the river. Does that make sense? Okay, generally speaking, though, your paddle commands are either forward, back, or stop. Now, Jared and I are going to demonstrate a forward stroke. He's going to straighten his inside arm and stab the water so that he's got a vertical paddle, both side to side and front to back, so that he gets good purchase on this whitewater blade. He's going to use his torso and not just his arms to draw back until he's about halfway up his femur. See, if he pulls back too far, actually, you can see he's actually pulling himself into the river. Okay, so you want a short, powerful, rhythmic stroke with a vertical paddle shaft. Now Liz over here, she's going to do the back paddle, and she's going to start by setting that paddle shaft against her thighs, and when she goes to paddle back, she's going to actually keep the shaft of the paddle against her thigh and paddle back like this. She's essentially using her leg as a fulcrum to paddle back, okay? So it's generally speaking forward, back, and stop. Some of the guys might say forward 1. That means you're number 1. No, that means 1 stroke and then back to a resting position. Back 1 stroke, and then to a resting position. In a resting position, we don't need you. If we say paddle's ready, you don't need to Conan the Barbarian on us, okay? Just be ready like this, and then forward 1 stroke, and then back to a resting position. Okay, any questions about that? All right, so now let's say that you're going down river, you're having a good time, and somebody falls out. And Liz, unfortunately, it's going to be you because your shades are so cool. So let's say that Liz falls out of the raft. Let's pretend that this is a rapid, so you can just step right out there. And she's gonna hold on to her paddle if she can. All right, now if the paddle inhibits your rescue, you can let go of it. However, these are really good walking sticks. And of course, if you let go of it, then we gotta go fish it out of the river. So it's ideal if you can hold on to your paddle. So let's say that Liz gets separated from the raft. God forbid, okay? And let's hope that she does not lose her sunglasses. That what a crime that would be. These are straight out of the Jacqueline Kennedy estate. So let's say that she falls out of the raft. She's gonna have a few moments of like existential disillusionment about everything in her life. She's gonna go upside down, and there's like reality will shift. It's like being a part of some weird alien abduction, but you're underwater. So, but eventually she's gonna pop up, okay? Now once she pops up, the first thing that she's gonna do is reach for this chicken line, okay? Now, there's nothing chicken about grabbing the chicken line, but she's gonna reach for that chicken line, go ahead and grab it, and then somebody from in the raft is gonna come over and grab her by the, and abandon your paddle. Abandon the paddle, come over, grab Liz, and then put your, oh no, hold on, put your knees against the, see, this is where it gets weird. All right? This is a very personal thing. I'm a yoga teacher. I understand personal boundaries and so forth. But Liz wants to be rescued, I can assure you, okay? So grab her by the lapels of the life jacket, lean back and pull her in on top of you. That's the only way to do it. That's right, okay, so you can see, in real life though, you're not gonna be able to lift Liz up out of the water, twist and drop her in the raft, okay? Like, you're not gonna be able to pull that off. So you're gonna pull her in on top of you, okay? Liz is going to snap out of that deep meditative state that she was in, and she's gonna start squirming and like maybe yelling and cussing or something, and you're gonna be underneath her and you just have to wait, okay? But eventually she'll pop up, grab her paddle, and then everybody just gets back to running whitewater again, okay? So that's kind of how it works, and this is what we call a reach rescue, okay? Any questions about that? Reach rescue, again, is the simplest, and that's the first rescue that we go for, and it's also what most rescues end up as, right? So if somebody is swimming out and we go after them in a row rescue, we eventually have to pull them into the raft anyway. Reach, row, throw, go. So if we can't reach for Liz, and she gets separated from the raft over here, go ahead and come over here, and she's swimming at this point. An alligator took the paddle. That's gone. And she's over here flailing. She's mildly panicked. All right? We're trying to reach for her. We might take our paddle, turn it around backwards and try to reach, but she's too far. She's too far to reach. Okay, so what do we do now? We row, all right? So then you just listen to your guide, we paddle, and we go and rescue our swimmer. Reach, row, throw, go. If we can't reach, and we can't row, then we throw. And by that I mean we throw a throwback. So let's say that Liz is way out yonder. Okay, she's way out there, all right? We can't reach and we can't row. Maybe she's just too far, or maybe a boat's upside down and there's people on either side of the river. We need to reach for this swimmer and throw for this swimmer. You get what I'm saying? Either way, it's just a little bit too far, and the most efficient rescue is going to be throwing this bag. So what we'll do is blow our whistle, perhaps, get attention from our swimmer, and then we're going to yell, "Swimmer!" which is her. It's Liz. It's Liz's new name. All right? Swimmer, rope. We'll huff that over there, and she's going to grab the rope, not the bag. Okay? If she grabs the bag, she's just going to keep going down river until the bag runs out of rope. If you're inside the raft, your guide might hand you this rope and say, "Pull her in," means do that thing. Yeah, pull her in as quickly as possible. Now for Liz, if she gets pulled in straight like this, the water's going to go right into her face. So what you might want to do is roll over on her back, throw this over here, and then this little pillow might flip up, and there's a little pocket of air that'll form in front of her face so that she can get pulled in backwards, and then bonk her head against the side of the raft, which is lovely. It's the sound of freedom. Then you turn her around and pull her into the raft, and you've got another reach row. Reach, row, throw, go. Any questions about that?
So I have a question. Okay. When you pull a person out from the boat, can it be more than one person to help pull?
What's that, Maverick?
When they fall off the boat, can you have have more than one person pulling that person?
Yeah, that's
'Cause
fine.
Sometimes the people's heavy.
Yeah,
You have to
2
pull.
people pull on. The thing is that you just want to get them in the raft. Okay, just grab them and pull them in, and you're going to find that leaning back is the way to do that. Pull them in on top of it. Beach, row, throw, go. And like I said, a go rescue or a strong swimmer rescue, those are more advanced, so we're not going to go through it too much today. But do you guys have any questions about our rescue system? All right, Liz, come on back into the raft here, and we're going to go through one other thing. Josh, would you get my throw bag for me? So let's have you two sit side by side here, and we're going to go through flips, which is very entertaining. So let's say that they're paddling down river. Let's just go ahead and paddle leisurely. They're having a great time. They're like, this has been an amazing trip. This is wonderful. But then the raft turns up on its side and it's about to flip over. What we want you to do is high side. So let's say, can I grab you three right here and just grab this yellow rope? Go ahead and just grab this yellow rope and let's just grab it right here. Let's just try to lift it up. And what I want you to do, Liz, is jump over here. Here we go. Okay, that's right. So if the raft comes up on one side, we want to go to that high side to flatten it out. What happens if we don't do that? The raft flips over. So let's do the opposite. Liz, go ahead and step on the other side. This time, this is going to be kind of dangerous. But you're going to go that way. Could you guys spot Liz so that she doesn't face plant into the gravel? Okay, here we go. Up! Oh my gosh! And they low side, and look, it's easy. So the raft is going to flip over. So go ahead and hop out of the raft, actually. Let's get a round of applause for our volunteers. Excellent job. All right, so let's say that you don't high side. Now, most of the time when rafts flip on this river, they turn sideways, and the downriver tube comes up. Does that make sense? It'll hit a wave, and the downriver tube, this tube, as it were, going downriver, will come up, and it'll flip over your head. You guys stand back real quick. Where's Josh? Or, Chris, you got a flip line. So let's say we flip over, the road's upside down, okay? So reach, row, throw, go still applies. Everything's the same except there's nowhere to sit. Okay, so come back to the raft if you can. Sometimes your guides will be pointing you to other rafts. You swim to whichever raft is closest to you. Ideally, your guide will get on top of the raft. Go ahead. And usually about this time, he'll clip into a rope, and somebody is going to be holding on to the rope and not letting go. And because they're remembering the safety talk. But unfortunately, Chris, in order to recover this raft, needs to flip it right side up. So Chris is going to ask politely, please let go. But if I don't, he's going to kick me in the face. Okay? So let go, and then your guide will right the raft by leaning back, and the raft will come back up and over, and then we're back to the raft. And this is flip recovery. Ideally, this all happens within about a minute. Reach, row, throw, go. Yes, raft, flip upside down. Yes, it could happen. I'm going to be ready for it. That's all I have for you. Again, my name's Luke, and if you have any final questions at all. What's that?
What's the depth?
The depth of the river? No one knows. I don't know, like 10, 20 feet? It depends. Any other questions?
Can I pull them in backwards with the rope?
Yeah.
You said turn them around. You have to turn them around.
No, you can pull them back then. It's a nice spinal sort of decompression. It's whatever you decide. Usually people like to be pulled in frontwards. It's more personal that way. Any other questions?
So like when you're deciding where to sit,
Yeah.
say you're somebody that doesn't want to go in, where would you recommend they sit?
Where would I want to sit if I didn't want to go in? I would go with Chris.
Okay. And which row?
In which row?
One, two, three.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Oh,
But because of how I look, I sit in the front because I feel like I'm doing everyone a favor. You know what I mean? I feel like we're the same that way. Any other questions from anybody? Okay, that's all I have for you. Anything at all? Okay, thanks, friends. We're gonna go down.